Okay, I'll move on to the agenda now, mate, and we can have a look at that.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to soon come on to some introductions into the BSE team and who we are and very briefly what we do. We'll then look over the website navigation and activity. And obviously this is fairly new because obviously Mike and Rob will talk in a little bit more detail about what materials we've actually got on our website. And obviously these will be crucial for you all to ensure you know how to navigate around the site, but also around what content we've actually got. We'll also be looking at the qualification handbook and looking at some of the curriculum, as well as some specialism content discussion that we'll have post that as well. We'll also be looking at some resources and what Hodder are going to be doing around resources to support the T-level, and finally a Q&A. But again, like I said, if you do have any questions as the slides are going on, just please raise your hand. We want to make this as informal as possible. Raise your hand, turn your camera on, and then the floor is yours. I'll pass over to, sorry, one more slide, Rob, apologies. Okay, so this is basically the construction and BSE T-level team. Obviously, my name's Salim Vizram. I'm at the bottom there, lead industry manager for building services engineering. On today's call, we also have Rob Malander, technical advisor for building services engineering. And we also have Mike Scarrett, product specialist for EAL, and obviously our partner for the T-level. We also have Alison Whittle, technical advisor, also on the call today for post 16 to take any other queries that you may have as well.
Thanks, Liam. Yeah, my name is Mike Scott, EAL product specialist, and over the next few slides, we're just going to have a look at some website navigation around the course handbook. There will be a little activity to go with it, so if you do have a smart device or a separate screen, that would be really useful. Okay, so a little activity for us to do really. So if we can navigate to the City and Guilds homepage. I don't know, those with smart devices, you can just follow me with this, please. And on there, from the homepage towards the top right of the page, there's this search function. If you could put in there 8710 and press search, it should come up then with this screen, which we can see here at the bottom right hand side of our slide. For those following then, if you could then press level 3, that'll take us then onto the T-Levels website navigation page. On there then you'll see two main tabs. I'm sure you're used to these, the information tab and the document tab. If you can then click on the document tab, and then you'll see the assessment materials and centered documents tab underneath there. Again, if you can click on within the assessment materials, you'll find all the sample assessment materials, but for now, if you can click on the centered documents, you'll see the course handbook or the specification there. If you can open that, that'll be great, and download it. So once we've reached there, well, a little activity here then. For those that's got the handbook open, could you see if you could navigate that handbook now and find the guided learning hours for the specialism, as well as the program of study component number? I think you should find it on around about page 12 of the course handbook there. Just give you a minute to navigate to that. Okay, so within that then, you'll see there then there's the list then of the mandatory programs of study as well as the occupational specialisms there. As you can see from the mandatory study, there's a specific program of study number for that, which is 8710-30. You'd have to register on that separately. And then you choose one of the standalone occupational specialisms or the combinations underneath. So for instance, if you're choosing plumbing and heating, we choose the and heating engineering, you choose 8710-36.
8710-36.
2 components.
Sorry, Mike, I muted all because of the background noise, and I think
Okay.
I've just muted you as well. Sorry
There
about
was
that.
yeah. So if you was to pick the plumbing engineering and heating engineering occupational specialism there, which is 8710-36, you'd be picking up components numbers there, 356 and 355 as a combination. That would be done obviously in conjunction with the mandatory program of study, which is 8710-30. As you can see, that's got a component number of 350. Please note that the guided learning hours allocated to the mandatory qualification alone is 520 guided learning hours. And you can see then for the combinations, then the guided learning hours allocated then for the plumbing engineering and heating engineering is 840. If we was to look at the gas engineering standalone occupational specialism, you'd see the program of study number to be 8710-34, and that would have a guided learning hours allocated to it of 650. Okay, what's worth noting here then is that obviously within the qualification handbook there's a resource section. So that should be page 16 then of the handbook. So for those that's got a smart device, can you try and navigate and find the resource requirements there? That will also give you the resource requirements, obviously for staffing, as well as obviously for the occupational specialisms you're doing as well. And then the last thing.
Sorry, Mike. I think Anthony had his hand up. So should we go to Anthony and get him to answer his question, hopefully?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you, Anthony.
The gas qualification, is that aligned or is that not aligned to ACS qualifications?
Rob, did you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, Anthony, it's non-aligned. So they would still have to do all the relevant assessments with regards to ACS. Aligned with regards to delivery. So obviously a lot of the delivery is around core gas safety and things like that. But with regards to this is all around borderline competence, and they don't actually get any ACS categories, and they don't actually sit any ACS aligned assessments. So when we start in future Teams meetings, we're going to start looking at the assessments, which are now live. The samples are on the website. We'll start looking at those. We'll start looking at how things is assessed, and it's assessed totally different to the ACS style of assessment. So it's very difficult to make it aligned. So in short, no, but the delivery is aligned towards that type of qualification.
And what are they getting, CCM1 and SEN-what, or some of the others as well?
No, it's non-aligned at all. So they're not getting any ACS categories.
No categories at all.
No.
So why would they choose that route?
Because a T-level is all around borderline competence. This is then going to be transferred into the apprenticeship program, where they would hopefully then gain full-time employment, gain an apprenticeship, and complete the relevant categories and become ACS competent. So T-level and an apprenticeship, two different products. Obviously, preferred product, preferred route. If you can get justifiable employment and you can gain an apprenticeship, obviously that would be the chosen pathway, the chosen route for any young individual or individual which wanted to do the apprenticeship. But failing that, full-time funded level 3 program for the future, the alternative option would be T-level.
Okay. And is there a disclaimer in the portfolio or any of the work that says this does not lead to ACS assessments anywhere?
No. No.
Is there going to be?
No plans for that at the moment. Obviously, it's something we consider, but there is no inclination that this is aligned in any shape or form to ACS. So this is not to be sold as a gas qualification which leads to gas safe registration.
Yeah, Anthony, this product effectively is going to be at some point superseding the 6035 full-time qualifications, and the 2365, the full-time products that are out there in the marketplace at the moment. Obviously, the government's vision is to have apprenticeships, A levels, and T levels. Obviously, these T levels, and we're working alongside IFATE, will be mapped into the respective apprenticeship standard. So we're working on that at the moment to get the gas occupational specialism mapped into the gas apprenticeship standard. But as Rob said, candidates that have completed the 2-year T level have effectively completed a 2-year full-time program, and then that will be mapped into the gas apprenticeship standard should they go on to do that. And then obviously, they would have done a significant portion of the knowledge, but they would then have to obviously go and complete their portfolio. And obviously, this is aimed at the 16 to 19, age bracket as well.
I understand that. The reason I say that is because I'm turning numerous people down at the moment that have done the 6035 level 3 from different areas because they've been told it's aligned to gas safe, and once they've done it, they can then come in and do their gas assessments, which they can't.
Sorry, did you say the 6035 is aligned to gas safe?
No, they're being told it's being aligned to gas assessments, and it isn't. Gaining access to the gas assessments until they've done the whole qualification, including the portfolio of work, which they're not doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly something that, obviously, if we need to almost explicitly say that, learners coming on to do the occupational specialism for gas engineering won't be coming out with any gas categories at the end of their 2-year T level, that's something that we can, put in the handbook. I don't see why it can't be. We can also make that explicitly clear on some of the T level website around that as well. So, yeah, point taken. We can make sure that it's highlighted on there. So any learners, parents, or anyone coming on there will know that at the end of a 2-year T level, they're not competent.
Yeah.
I'm just going to move on to some of the other people that have got their hands up. If you bear with me 1 second. So let's have a look. Andy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, morning everybody. Happy New Year and all that.
Happy New Year to you, Andy.
I'm just wondering, Saleem, is it worth doing? So they have to sign a declaration. The learner has to sign a declaration, a bit like you do with the electrical quals, where they won't lead to competent person scheme registration. So the learner has read something and declared that they know they can't progress on. Then the centres have got some form of protection, rather than it just being in the handbook. The learners, if they've signed it, it's been specifically pointed out to them.
Yeah, that again is a valid point, Andy. I think what we will need to do is we will need to get that checked with IFATE first, because even though we've won the tender to deliver the T level, obviously we've had to make sure we're crossing all the I's and T's for the institute as well as DFE. So providing they are okay with it in terms of the declaration, or any kind of messaging around competence, then yes, absolutely. I think, you know, if we can get some clarity around that, then yes, we will definitely do that. But I've made a note of that, and then what we'll do is we'll check with colleagues within C&G to go back to IFATE and ask them around that. But yeah, thanks guys for your comments on that. I don't think there is anybody else who had their hands up, but Mike, back over to you.
Okay, thanks. I think what's worth noting here, Rob, if you could you share page 53 on your screen of the handbook, please.
No problem.
What's worth noting, this qualification as stated is different. And I think you'll see that there's 14 knowledge outcomes within the core BSc core component, which is very different to any other qualification really we've delivered. So Rob, if you could get that up, that'd be great, just so we can see. But within the knowledge outcomes, it covers obviously construction core as well as building services engineering core as well.
You should see that, Mike. Can you not see that yet?
No, it's not showing at the moment now.
Oh, it's saying I'm sharing. Let me stop sharing and start sharing again. Just see if that works, mate. Just a sec.
So within, once Rob's sharing that, there it is. You can just make that a little bit bigger. That'd be great, Rob. Thank you.
No problem. Is that better?
Brilliant. So you can see there, that is the core component then of this BSc T-level. And you can see there's 14 knowledge outcomes there. And yeah, we have got the building, number 12, building service engineering systems in there, maintenance principles, but we've also got a lot more construction type principles in there as well, because it's the same core in essence, which is covered in the construction on site as well. So you've got construction sustainability principles, design principles, you've got construction information and data principles, relationship management in construction, digital technology in construction. So it's really worth going through this handbook and having a look at the specific core component and the content of it specifically as well. I'm going to hand over to Rob now. I was going to go over a little bit of the occupational specialism with you.
Okay, can you just confirm we're back onto the slides?
Yes.
Thanks. So yeah, we've already had a few comments, obviously, around occupational specialisms. This might be a little bit difficult. I'm just going to try and share my video as well as try and look at slides, etc. And what we're going to do now is just show you how the handbook's structured and then give you a chance to go away and look at these specialisms which you might be delivering. Obviously, these events are for Wave 1 and Wave 2 providers who are going to be delivering these topics over the sort of September 2021 onwards. So a little bit of input into how the handbook is structured, and then we're going to go away, have a look at some of the content, and then gives chance to ask questions, a little bit like we just have on the gas, really, around any technical questions or delivery questions or anything like that. So when we start looking at the handbook, it's very similar to what other qualifications have been structured like, but there is slight differences. So we've still got a learning outcome, which most are familiar with. You know, this one's example is health and safety. You've got criteria within that learning outcome. So we can see on screen there, we've got the 1.1 construction legislation and regulations. It's just a topic really of what's going to be delivered. We're used to the range, which is underneath that, the legislation and regulations then, which would have to be taught as part of that delivery. That range, obviously, as you're familiar with that, probably, you know, it provides the detail of what's delivered. So what could be assessed, basically, that range could be assessed within parts of various assessments. But we've got a section really underneath that, which you might not be familiar with, which elaborates on the range really. And it's the what do learners need to learn section. So it's to give you a little bit more depth as to what should be taught, the level of which should be taught, you know, how detailed should we be going into things maybe. That sort of thing is in that what do learners need to learn section. And also in the handbook, you have got a relationship to core skills. The there's reference in the handbook on page 22, I think it is, in the building services, and how it relates to maths and English and digital skills, which is in around 23 to 25. So if you need that for whatever reason, that's all mapped back to those core competencies and those core skills. So that's how the handbook's structured, and the learning outcomes are structured. So what we're going to do now, you've all got hopefully access to the handbook, or you can come away from the screen now and go and find the handbook, hopefully with the guidance we've given you earlier. And if you can go to the index at the front of the handbook, which I'll put on screen in a second, find the section with the content or the specialisms you're going to be delivering. So of the specialism or specialisms, you may be looking at plumbing and heating, you may be looking at gas as a standalone product. And we're just going to take a few minutes to go away, have a look at some of the content on that. You might be sat within your teams in colleges, you might be sat remotely at home at the moment. We're just going to have a few minutes and just give you the opportunity really to ask questions on anything. Is it what depth you've got to deliver? Is there a query around some of the content? Obviously, the qualification's just been approved. A lot of the content was given to us. The outline content was produced by, the employer group and the IFATE panel who've produced this content, which we've then turned into a qualification. So we're not in a position really now where we're taking feedback on things to change as such, but we can still probably change certain things if we have to, like tweak some of the range maybe, if we think there's any drastic changes needed. But today's really about a Q&A session to try and support you with any questions you've got for those who might be delivering. So we're just going to give you a few minutes on that, and then hopefully we'll get some hands up or we'll get some comments in the chat, and we can then answer questions as required. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes. What I'll do, I'm just going to get the handbook onto the relevant page so you can all find that as well. So let me just get the handbook back up there. So if you're looking for the relevant content, there's an index around page 4, 5, 6, which should direct you to the relevant specialism which you're thinking of delivering, and enable you to have a scroll through some of the content and ask questions around any of the delivery, etc. Give a couple of minutes on that. Okay, we'll start picking questions up as they're coming in. We have just had one put in the chat there. Will C&G be providing a smart screen package for the Tlevel? Also, will City and Guilds textbooks be updated to match the Tlevel? Okay, Clinton, let's have a look. So there is a slide later on that.
Yeah, there is a slide on resource. Do you want to pick that up afterwards, Rob?
Yeah, I was going to say I'll pick that up when we get to that slide, if that's all right, Clinton, because we are going to give a quick update on what's happening with books and smart screen packages, etc.
Marvin's got a question. Should we go to Marvin and see what Marvin's got to say?
Do you want to mute yourself there, Marvin? No.
Marvin, the floor's yours.
Oh yeah, I'm just looking at the on page sort of 38, 39, 40 about the externally moderated occupational specialism assignment. You know, the on-site stuff that they do with an employer. And I'm looking at the gas content, and it's install, commission, maintain, and decommission gas systems. I mean, borderline competency, but with no ACS alignment, as Anthony sort of mentioned earlier. And then they're doing an install of commission on site. I mean, is this going to map across? Is this going to be portfolio material for a gas portfolio? Is it going to build towards that? What's the idea behind that? I'm just trying to get a feel for what's being aimed for with this.
What page is that, Marvin? Sorry, it's because I think this is done within the centre. What page did you say?
This is page 39, 40. No, page 40 for the gas engineering for the employer set, externally moderated assessment, which is going to be done on the job as part of the Tlevel 45 days on site with an employer sort of activity. So I was looking at that on page 40, and that's what stuck out to me, that they're going to be doing some sort of gas install and commission under supervision with a maintenance and a decom. It's very similar to what you do in a gas sort of foundation, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the synoptic assessment for the occupational specialism. So it's actually done within the college environment and not on site.
Well, because when it says externally set, externally moderated. So what are they doing with the employer then? I thought that was what it was going to be. Maybe I'm just confused.
No, it's fine. That's what these sessions are about. You know, it's about questions. So that synoptic assignment is all around the technical content they'll have done within the centre. So we're going to run future sessions to have a look at the assessment methods and the assessments themselves. Today was, looking at content and etc. But basically, that is going to be the end synoptic assignment, which they will do at the end of the specialism. So externally set is externally set by city and guilds. Externally marked is, if it's externally marked, it means it's been marked by city and guilds as well. So the assessor in centre might observe and fill in paperwork, and a little bit like the technicals are at the moment. So a little bit like 8202 is at the moment. The assessor might observe, fill in observation paperwork. They might support the delivery of that synoptic assignment, but then that will be uploaded and moderated and marked by the moderation team almost within city and guilds. So that's not done on site. On site, the industry placement, although they should be, if possible, working with somebody from that industry, they're not carrying out any gas work on site, which they are not obviously supervised to do. So there's nothing with regards to their building an on-site portfolio of gas as such. Any gas work portfolio would be built with, and supporting evidence would be collated within the centre while they was under supervision. They're not actually carrying out any portfolio on site to be mapped to any, gas assessments in any shape or form.
Because the reason why I'm asking this, Rob, is because there's this 45 days or so of industry placement, and I can see this as leading up to building up this your portfolio of gas evidence for competency. And if that's not what this is aiming for at all, then it's getting the industry placements then might be more challenging, is what I'm a bit more concerned about with that then.
Yeah, Ali, you got your hand up. Did you want to come in on something there? I just saw a hand there.
Oh, yeah, is that just very quickly, just to clarify that, because it is, if you've not delivered technicals in any shape, that could be a little bit confusing, the handbook. So just to clarify that, when it says it's externally set, as Rob said, it's externally set by us. It's internally marked by centres and then externally moderated by city and guilds. So there's just a little middle bit there missing, Rob, was that the internally marked by centres and externally moderated by us for the synoptics for the occupational specialisms. Does that clear that up a little bit?
Yes, that does. I get what you're aiming for now. I understand that.
Thank you.
And when we look at industry placement, it's going to be very difficult to specify what they do on that industry placement. And there isn't any, they'll be doing an employer set project as part of the core and things like that. And there'll be various evidence, IFAC need, etc., with regards to what they're doing out there, but it's not part of the technical qualification, if that makes sense. The industry placement is not part of the occupational specialism and that part of the T-level package. It's a separate element of that, which the Department for Education are currently developing what's required for that at the moment. So it sits outside it's within the T-level, but it sits outside the technical qualification.
That's right. Yeah, and obviously, I don't know Marvin or anybody else on the call, but we did have DFE join us along with ETF in December, and we ran a few webinars, and they actually went through the work placement element that you were speaking about, Marvin, and they did give some good detail about that. We did send out some slides to all the registered attendees as well. So I'm not sure if anybody attended those events, but if you haven't, please drop myself, Rob, or Mike an email, and then we can certainly get back to you on that. But obviously DFE will be putting out some additional comms over the course of the next few weeks and months around, you know, how that process and what that process might look like. You're on mute.
What I can do, Slim, I'll drop a link to our BSE video channel, and we've got one for T-levels as well. I'll drop them both in the chat, so if anybody wants to access any past webinars, they can then.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, because there's a wealth of information on those channels, and anything you have missed previously, you'll be able to go on there and have a look and just review it as well. Thanks, Rob, for adding that in the chat. So yeah, the information is there.
So that first one is our BSE video channel, which we've just done quite a few webinars, and the one on its way now is the T-level one, which has all got all the past webinars. So, you know, there's a lot of wealth of information there. We realise some people have dropped in and out of some sessions maybe, and there is a lot of good information around all around the structure of T-levels, how it's assessed, how the assessments are structured. So, you know, explaining how the synoptic assignment is going to be assessed and delivered. All that guidance has been, you know, prescribed to us for the project. It's not something which, you know, City and Guilds have sat down and maybe thought around how these qualifications are assessed. The focus for this assessment strategy, if you like, has been very much produced in conjunction with IFATE, within the guidelines from IFATE as well. So you will see it's very much like our technicals, I think, just to say that. But yeah, the video channel there should help you with anything you may have missed in the past. Any other queries or questions with regards to any content whatsoever? You know, I know we've dropped things on you this afternoon, but you know, what we want is from these sessions moving forward. Obviously, it's not all about City and Guilds coming on for these sessions for a presentation and stand here talking through slides so much. We are wanting these sessions to be more two-way, you know, for you to talk to each other. Most of you should be, well, the events are designed for wave 1 and 2 providers, so people who are delivering from maybe September 2021. So it gives you the opportunity to hopefully in future engage with each other, you know, talk to each other, ask about how you're going to be developing things. The next round of events we're going to be looking at is going to be curriculum planning. So maybe after today, you can go and look at some of the content and then come back to those curriculum planning events and chat about how you're going to be delivering it, how you're going to be breaking your days up for these sessions, etc. That's what we're trying to get. It's, you know, the content's there. It's not, there's not a lot from a City and Guilds perspective with regards to the content. We'll be changing in that unless we get some drastic feedback. So the qualification is live and there, and so are the sample assessment material. So question we've got, can learners decide on choosing the standalone or combined units after they have completed the mandatory units, or do they need to decide before they start the course? That's a good question, that, and something we've actually asked our assessment and development team. So you have to register on the mandatory core and the occupational specialisms separately. So the idea being there could be a little bit of leeway. When I've spoken to our assessment development team, there could be a little bit of leeway between registering on the core to give them chance to maybe decide which specialisms they definitely want to do before you register on the specialism. But they seem to think most people might register on those specialisms at the outset. So you could, if you wanted to, delay that specialism registration slightly. It will be a separate registration. We've had confirmation of that this morning on an email. But saying that, you know, if people are signing up to one of these T-levels, it would be, the thoughts are they would know which specialisms they're planning on delivering when they sign up, and not the fact they sign up to a BSE T-level and don't really know which specialism they are planning to undertake. So probably registrations will come together, but potentially there could be a time period between them. They will register on both components separately. Hope that answers your question there. Any other questions we've got? Before we move on, just to support material, we realised, you know, today's a little bit ad hoc and we've dropped the content on you. Some of you may not have seen this handbook, you know, before today, and that's why with the first activity we wanted to navigate around the website to make sure you've got access to all the information. So it may be that some of these questions come from future sessions, but what I'm going to do, keep thinking around your questions. I'm going to share screen again, and I'm going to go just through the support slides while cogs might be ticking out there and people might be looking to post further questions. So we had a question earlier which I don't want to forget to address, which is why I'm going to drop into it now while we're waiting for any further questions. Can you see the slides again? Can somebody acknowledge?
Yes.
We can see them.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So we're going to be hosting future events. I'm not sure how you heard about this event, but there is certain documents you need to complete. We'll send these slides around afterwards, which will have, the link won't be live at the moment. It will be live for me because I've got control there. I'm not sure if you'll be able to click on that link at the moment because it's on my screen. So when I send these slides around, you'll have access to that link. One is for the pre-approval form, which you need to fill out once as a centre. So that might not be the responsibility of yourself, but if you're planning on delivering for September 2021, we need to get that completed because it does things like gives us the heads up of what you're thinking of delivering, allocates what's going to be the external quality assurer, things like that. And also you need to individually complete the T-level provider contact update form, which then makes sure you get invited to all these future events. So as it says on the bottom there, this is for providers who have been approved to deliver T-levels. We want to try and avoid, you know, general consensus and people signing up who have just got a little bit of interest. There's some future, you know, there's some past webinars on the site for that. If you are just interested in T-level structure and things like that, we want to try and support the people who are going to be delivering this first. That's the idea of these events, and get them talking to each other. So that's one thing with regards to future support. The next thing, we had a question around books and smart screen. So for building services engineering and on-site construction, Hodder, our publishing partner, are going to be completing books around the core content. So that's the bit which is new to everybody, really. You know, the plumbing content, we've not had many questions, and probably because, you know, it's pretty consistent to probably what we know and love and what's been in previous full-time qualifications for years and years. We've got textbooks already out there for plumbing. These are new textbooks. So in October 2021, they're going to have the BSE core live and available. And in November, they're going to have the on-site construction core book live and available. And there's on the slide there, gives you a little bit of an overview of the content of that. But it's going to literally, learning outcome by learning outcome, be the support material you need to start and deliver that new core topic, which should be really beneficial because there's, as Mike alluded to earlier, there's a lot of new content in there which we've not seen before. So that's something which has been signed off, that's been produced at the moment, and that's well on track. We had a meeting last week actually with the guy from Hodder, and that's on track. With regards to the specialisms, they're going to be mapping wherever we've got a current book. So for instance, plumbing, where we've got a plumbing level 3 book, they're going to be mapping those books to the new T level. So you can use those books as well to deliver the actual specialism. And we've talked to them as well about maybe creating some electronic mapping so they can click on the relevant link and it will take you straight to the bits you need for T level. So they're going to perhaps be looking at things like that as well. But as a bare minimum, they are going to map the books to T level so you can use the relevant sections to teach. So that's something as well with regards to support. As well as that, we're also looking at smart screen products for this, but not for every specialism and things like that. They're looking at, again, linking in with some of this core content and schemes and things like that, schemes of work, lesson plans, things like that, basic content, but not full packages for every specialism. That's in discussion at the moment. So that's support material. The next thing I wanted to mention is qualification reforms. So late before today's event, actually, we've just had a little bit of a call to action from our funding guru around reforms, level 3 reforms, and sitting guilds are currently responding to the level 2 call for evidence and consultation to help government understand what the risks are in the reform process. So to put that into some kind of topic we can understand, really. So we're currently going through a reform and a consultation around all our current level 2 products, all our current level 3 products. Is the consultation which is happening first. So that's the one we're feeding back on at the moment, as well as then they're going to be looking at the level 2 reforms after that. And what has been asked is if anybody's willing to give us 10 or 15 minutes for a phone call in the next 10 days so we can gain your input and views on our current level 2 and 3 products, and it will then help us support our response. So this will all eventually lead to whether things are funded in the future, basically. You know, what obviously is funded in the future. We're being told at the moment T levels could be the only funded level 3 program in the future. We're then going to see a reform of level 2 products, etc. So what I would ask is, if anybody is willing to do that, would you mind dropping your contact details in the chat, please, and I can, or us as a team can then forward that on. That would be very...
that's quite crucial, really, because obviously, as Rob mentioned, there is a level 3 consultation out at the moment, which awarding organisations, providers, stakeholders, and various industry body members that are going to be feeding into that. And that's going to be crucial because, you know, as you can see, well, as you're aware, obviously 2365 level 3 and 6035 level 3 were no longer funded this academic year. And the shift is, you know, that's the road that the government seem to be going down at the moment. And obviously, they are obviously for BSc and for on-site construction. We do have a T level in place, albeit the next 2 years are for a limited number of providers. But that is ultimately the direction of travel. Like I said, you know, the vision is A levels down the academic route. You'll then have an apprenticeship route, and then you'll have a T level route. So any feedback that you'd be willing to provide, obviously we would then feed that into a case study for our level 2 evidence, and then obviously we would feed that back into any consultation, formal consultation that we would put back. I can see a number of people have already responded with their details, Rob, so we can certainly pass that back on to Bryony
Yeah.
in terms of how we could do that. So yeah, really appreciate people's efforts in responding back to Rob's call. There was another comment, Rob. I don't know if you want to pick that up or if you want me to pick that up, but Alan has mentioned, how do you convince a 16 to 19-year-old to undertake T-levels instead of 8202, which is our technical, or 6035, an electrical, or an electrical equivalent? I don't know if anybody wants to pick that up. I'll happily pick that up.
I'll just share in a minute. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, how do we convince learners to to carry out T-level instead of some of our alternative products? I mean, the key is probably some of these consultations. I don't know what you think, Salim, but I mean, the vision we're giving at the moment is this could be the only funded product. So how can we convince a learner in the future? Well, we might not have that luxury almost, because if these consultations go the way we think they might go, then T-level could be the only funded level 3 product.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously, if for centres that are on this call today, obviously, if you're already delivering our technicals and the transition either in September this year or September the following year, you'll be in a really good place to deliver T-levels, no question about it, because the methodology and the structure is fairly similar. If you're moving from like a 6035 or a 2365 directly then onto a T-level, the differences are quite chalk and cheese. So that's something to obviously bear in mind. And again, just to reiterate, obviously this is a government vision. This isn't a C&G directive. We are just following what the consultations are going around. I know Ali had a hand up. Ali, I don't know if you want to say something here at this point.
It was just to sort of add something extra to that, was because the T-level is designed to have a core element to it. It's designed to make for those learners who actually aren't quite sure yet which occupational specialism that they want to follow. So the difference is that they'll get the whole of the BSc and construction core, which provides more freedom to make them choose, for later on, rather than just commit to plumbing or commit to electric technical straight away.
Thanks, Ali. Yeah, that is a really good point as well. Obviously, these T-levels are designed obviously over a 2-year period, and we've briefly spoken about the core content and what that involves, and obviously you've got those occupational specialisms as well. And obviously we are working with IFATE to ensure and to highlight progression, and that's something we'll be passing on as soon as we get all of that information confirmed as well.
Thanks a lot, Salim. We've got a few minutes left. If there's any other burning questions, please drop them in the chat now around the occupational specialisms or anything else you want to have discuss. I'm just going to share screen again. What I'm going to do is just drop the link to a short survey, and there's a QR code on screen there actually, which you can use. Let me just copy that. I'm just going to drop a link to a survey in the chat. And then if there is anything, hopefully you can, any feedback you want to drop in around these sessions, anything you want, really it's asking, what do you want for the future with regards to support? So we're trying to find the best format to support you guys, basically. We're getting tired of just running webinars to people. So we're trying this format. This is the first time we've tried Teams today for this type of format, but it is a bit clunky. We're in and out of presentations, but we're hoping that it might bring people out and discuss a little bit more. So if you could fill in that survey, and if you've got any ideas of how you'd like these sessions to be run, we want to try and give you guys more time to chat. But at the moment, that's because this is so new, it's very difficult because probably there's not a lot to talk around because there's not that knowledge there maybe at the moment. But hopefully that will come. And with regards to networks, the reason we've tried to do this in sort of plumbing, heating and gas one, and then we've got obviously various ones this week, right, refrigeration, electrical, is because we want to try to build those networks of people to hopefully come together. We're going to be delivering similar specialisms. So that's the idea around these sessions, but it's whether they're going to be beneficial for you in the future. Obviously, regional networks where we all used to come and see you and face to face, if you like, is a bit of a thing at the past at the moment and could be for a few months. So maybe in the future that could be face to face, but for now we're looking at the best format to deliver this. So any feedback you can get, drop it in that survey, please. I'm just going to have a look, see if we've got any other questions come in or anything, Salim.
No, I don't think we do actually. Clinton mentioned.
Does the handbook suggest what should be delivered in year 1 and 2? Not as such, but we're going to be, as Ali's alluded to there, Clinton, the next sessions are going to be around curriculum planning. Now, we all appreciate that. We can't just deliver the core in the first year, probably. You know, these people have probably signed up to a plumbing qualification or an electrical qualification or gas or whatever it may be. So we're probably going to have to start some of that delivery. But obviously, when we start looking at curriculum plans, that's got that date on for assessment. So really, we're going to have to start working back from those dates for assessment. Your core obviously gets assessed at the end of the first year. So that's the one we've got to make. Obviously, that target date is the first one we've got to meet from an assessment point of view. But bearing that in mind, we are probably going to have to mingle in with that some of the plumbing heating maybe pathway or the gas pathway or whatever, which we'd have a specialism with teaching. Otherwise, we tend to lose candidates probably. So, yeah, that's the thoughts, but that'll be picked up more in the curriculum planning. Marvin, you got a comment there on alignments? Could you just elaborate on that slightly? I'm not sure what you're after with that, mate. If it's alignments to apprenticeships, we are looking at alignments to apprenticeships at the moment. As Salim said, we've done the mapping for plumbing and heating. We know where we think that should go in. Unfortunately, it's not our product in as such, and might not be our decision where that goes into the apprenticeship. So where we've got a qual, if it's alignments to apprenticeships, where we've got a mandatory qualification like plumbing and heating, plumbing and domestic heating technician, we can map the T-level content into the content of that qualification. But we've only developed the technical qualification as part of this T-level program. So then obviously you've got your maths and English, you've got your industry placement. That product is owned by IFATE. We don't own that product. So where things map in is eventually looking like it's going to be the decision of IFATE, and we're working with them at the moment to try and outline what that progression looks like and what that alignment looks like. So if that's the query, we've sort of tried to do our little bit on that, map qualifications, but obviously in some standards, like gas, we've got a qualification in there, but it's not mandatory. So we can't map to a qualification. We can't map to the refrigeration qualification because it's not mandatory. So there's various issues with apprenticeships at the moment and things being non-mandatory, and that's the way things tend to be going. So it's going to be very difficult when we start looking at progression. Okay, you mentioned about the course textbooks, didn't catch anything around smart screen. My understanding is, again, Clinton, they're going to be looking at smart screen, but around the core initially. And that is going to be perhaps not a full package. They're going to be looking at schemes, lesson plans and support material around that. But that's in discussion at the moment of how detailed that look like, what that looks like. Anything else before we close for today? I will follow up with a copy of the slides. It just might help if you've, got got to find a way around the website again, or if you want to complete the survey. Victoria, if a learner completes their T-level and chosen the gas engineering specialism, gains an apprenticeship, will this just leave their on-site gas portfolios, ISAs, etc.? So that's the little bit, if you like, the mapping, if you like, just to answer Victoria's question there in the chat. They will have to eventually do, if we're talking about gas, you know, they will eventually have to do those aligned assessments. So at the moment, our blue flame assessments in the qualification, they will have to definitely sit those. They will have to complete the on-site logbook for gas. That's going to be mandatory to complete the relevant, if they're going down the 9074 route, let's say. None of the assessments in T-level will map to those assessments because they're ACS aligned assessments. So they will still have to sit that. Now, how much delivery will be needed before they sit those is the discussion point at the moment, and which IFATE are going to make a decision on with regards to progression. If we think around funding, we're probably talking 12 months and a day, aren't we? Otherwise, apprenticeship won't be funded. So a minimum of 12 months and 1 day. Delivery-wise, it will be a lot of the way things are shaping up, a lot of the progression discussion will be between the assessment organisation, or the college, the centre, the learner, the potential employer, and an initial assessment will obviously be carried out. And it might be, a lot of the time, up to the centre how much delivery is taking place before assessments are sat. So that's the way things are shaping up. We could have a very broad scale of T-level learner, what comes out of the other end of this product. We could have somebody who's, you know, just scraped that pass, or you could have somebody coming through the door who's had some valuable work experience and gained a distinction. It could be minimal work experience, but tick the hours and a pass, or valuable work experience, industry placement, and gained a distinction in the assessments. That's the sort of gauge we're going to be looking at with regards to potential learners wanting to join an apprenticeship program. So I don't think there's going to be a black and white. Yep, it's 12 months. They've got to sit A, B, C, and D because of the broad scale of learner we could see coming out the other end. So we can map qualification to qualification, but it will be to the centre's discretion to then make judgment on that initial assessment of that learner and discuss with the employer how long we think they can get them through the on-programme qualification, if there is one, and then eventually, obviously, through endpoint assessment for apprenticeship. That will be obviously the end goal. Okay, I can't see any more questions coming in. Salim's just apologised, he's had to leave, he's got to go to another meeting. We are going to be running some of these in the future, so keep your eye out for the, you know, the future teams meetings. They are going to be more an opportunity to ask questions rather than us presenting, hopefully. Hence the, you know, the only a few slides today. Anything you need for future meetings or anything, any comments you want to put, drop them in the survey, please. It does help us improve these events in the future. We'll just give it a minute or two, and if there's nothing else from today, we'll close and bid you farewell. I have dropped a link to the survey in the chat. If you do get a chance before you go away to the rest of the day, it would be appreciated. And the idea of these in the future should be an open forum to be able to ask comfortable questions as well. You know, this is a very new product. It's a very different product to what we've seen in the past. So hopefully today's come across that way. We don't want people to feel uncomfortable to come to these events and ask questions. We have had a couple of comments to say they prefer this type of format rather than the webinars. Hopefully you won't be all be so shy in the future. I've got my video on. I haven't shaved for weeks, so come on, can't get any worse. No, well, I can't see anything. People are just commenting thank you, etc., and stay safe, and obviously the wishes of that goes out to everybody else out there as well. Keep your eye out for the next event, and hopefully we'll see you soon face to face. And in the future instead of on Teams. Thanks a lot for your input today. Any further questions, feel free to dock them direct. The email addresses are going to be on the slides. I'll actually send a follow-up email with the presentation on from the Building Services inbox. But you've all got our contact details on there if you need anything else for the future. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks, Rob. We'll see you.
Cheers, Rob.
Soon.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. See you all soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Rob.
I'll just stop the recording now.